best with your English. Im rabat. In this lesson, you will learn the difference between two very popular English tenses. And they are the past simple, which is a basic tense, and the present perfect, which is a more advanced tense. This lesson is part of a series of classes on English verb tenses created by Ingrid to help you master all of the English verb tenses step by step. So I do have individual separate classes on each of these tenses. And if you've already watched them, that's great. You can watch this lesson and it will help you to review and deepen your understanding of the difference between these two important and commonly used tenses. And if you haven't watched the separate lessons, you can still watch this lesson and use it as a kind of introduction and overview of these two tenses. And then you can go and watch the individual lessons. All right? So are you ready to start? Let's go. So the past simple talks about what the past. Yes. It talks about an action that started and ended in the past. That's basically it. For example, I worked yesterday. Okay. Just telling you about something that I did in the past. It's finished. It's over. The present perfect is a little bit different. It connects the past and the present. For example, I have worked all day, so I'm tired. Now, it's saying I have worked. I did something all day. And as a result, there is some effect now, and that effect is that I'm tired. Okay? So there is a connection between the past and the present. Something that you did in the past has a result or effect now. Whereas here you're just saying, that thing happened. That's it. Okay? For example, another one. They forgot my birthday. Okay? They forgot my birthday last week. All right? To be more specific. Time in the past. It's finished. It's over. They forgot it. It's over. All right? Here, I could have said they have forgotten my birthday many times. All right? So it's in the past until now. They have forgotten it, and they still forget it. So it's connecting the past and the present. Whereas here, it's just talking about the past. All right? What difference? That's important to understand. Here we could say he lost his bag last week. Okay? But when we say he lost his bag, it just tells us what happened last week. We don't know what the situation is now. Here, we say he has lost his bag. When we say he has lost his bag, you know right away. And immediately that he lost it, and it's still lost. It's still true. This sentence is still true. Here, maybe he lost it on Monday, and he found it on Tuesday. So, we don't know 100% that that bag is still lost. We just know it happened. We don't know if it's still true. But as soon as you say he has lost, see the difference here? He has lost versus just he lost. Here we know it's still true. Whatever happened before is still true now. It has an effect now, which means that he doesn't have his bag now. But here, maybe he found it. Maybe he didn't. We don't know. Okay? So that's one important difference. This is just about the past, and this connects the past and the present. Let's move on. So the past simple talks about an action in the past, and the focus is also on the past. For example, she did her homework. Okay? We're just talking about what she did. She ate dinner. She did her homework. These are things that happened, and they happened then, and they're finished and they're over, right? But this one, present perfect, there's an action in the past, but the focus is on now. For example, if we say instead of she did, we say she has done her homework, it means she's free now. She can do other things now. That's what we're sort of suggesting. Or here, we just say she ate dinner. Okay? She did this. She did that. That's it. It's finished. But here, if we say she has eaten dinner, what does that mean? Okay. She's not hungry now. We don't have to give her anything to eat now. Okay? So there is something that has an effect in the present because of something that was done in the past. So the action was in the past, but the focus is really on something now. Next, here with the past simple, we talk about definite times. We say when something happened. For example, I visited New York in 2012. Okay? And we say when? We have a definite time. Here with present perfect, we can't use a definite time. We actually cannot use it. We're not allowed to use it with this tense. So here you will see sentences like this. I have visited. Okay? I have visited New York. It means in my life, but I'm not saying when. I'm just saying that I have done that. But here, I'm saying that I did it, and I'm saying when I did it. So here, the time is definite, and here it's indefinite. Let's look at some more differences between these very common to use tenses. Another very important difference is that we use the past simple to talk about a finished time, and we use the present perfect to talk about an unfinished time. Now, in the sentences themselves, we might mention a time marker, which tells us that something is finished or unfinished, or we might not. Let's look at some examples, and then you'll understand exactly how it works. So in this one, she lived in London from 2015 to 2018. So what's the past simple? She lived, right? And from 2015 to 2018 is the finished time. This time is over. It's finished. So that's fine. We can use it in past simple. But here we say she's lived, which means she has lived in London since 2015. Since 2015 means it started at that time, but it's not finished yet. Since 2015 till now. So it includes the past and the present, and it's unfinished. Okay? Here it's finished. It's over. And here, since that time, since that point in time, till now and including now. So this is considered an unfinished time. So very often with the present perfect tense, you'll see this word being used since 2015, since 5 o'clock, since this morning, since I was young. Okay? Something started at in the past and it's unfinished. We can also use the word for. We will see that very often with this perfect tense, present perfect. So, we could say she's lived in London for 3 years. Okay? For 3 years. She started living in London 3 years ago, and she still lives in London. Okay? So that's what we mean by unfinished time. So in present perfect, either you don't mention the time, but if you mention the time, it has to be some expression that shows that it's unfinished. Okay? Let's look at some more examples. He didn't call me yesterday. So he didn't call. This is past simple. Yesterday is our finished time because yesterday is finished. It's over. But here, in present perfect, we have, he hasn't called me yet. He hasn't called. This is our present perfect. But yet is one of those words which you can use with the present perfect. Because what does yet mean? It means till now. From the past till now. So this is okay to use. You could also just say, he hasn't called me. That's okay. So you don't have to mention the time. But if you mention the time, make sure it's a word which includes now. All right, which is unfinished. Let's look at some more examples. We completed the project last week. We completed past simple last week, the finished time, or here in present perfect. Perfect. We could say we've already completed the project. We have already completed. So already is another word that you see very often with the present perfect. All right, there we go. Here's one last example. I met Joe last month. I met past simple last month. It's over. It's a finished time, right? But here we could say I've met. This is our present perfect. I've met Joe recently. Okay. So recently is another word that is representative of what? And unfinished time. Recently means the time from not that long ago till now, and including now. All right. So the important thing to remember is that with present perfect, either don't mention the time, but if you mention a time, make sure it's an unfinished time. The most common mistake that's made here between these 2 points is that people use the present perfect and then they mention a finished time. So the mistake is, for example, she's lived in London from 2015 to 2018. No, that would be wrong. Or to say he hasn't called me yesterday. No, I don't know. But I think it's a very important mistake because if you mention at any finished time, use past simple. That's it. Don't worry about present perfect because you can't use it in that context. Now, let's look at questions and how they are different in the past simple tense and in the present perfect tense. So in past simple, we would ask a question like this. When did you something? But in present perfect, we could ask how long have you? Okay, let's look at the difference. When we say when did you in past simple, we're talking about a point in time in the past. When did you do something? But when we say how long have you, we're talking about a length of time that started in the past and continues till now, right? So let's see how the questions will change based on what we're trying to find out. Okay, with our question. So for example, here we would say, when did you get married? Okay, I'm asking in which year or which month or whatever. When did you get married? Okay. That's going to give me an answer at a point in time in the past. Here I would say, how long have you been married? Okay, that means you got married, and now you're still married. So, how long have you been married? I want to know about the length of time, not the point in time when it started, but how long it continued. Here we would say, when did you start this job? Last month, last year. Okay, a point in time in the past. Here we would ask, how long have you had this job? You started at some point, and you still have this job. So, what's the length of time? I've had this job for 2 months, 3 years, whatever. Okay. Here we would ask, when did you move to Boston? Here we would say, how long have you lived in Boston? Okay. Are you starting to see the difference? Are you starting to feel the difference? Okay. Here we would say, when did you meet Mary? And on this side, how long have you known Mary? Okay. See the difference? When did you join university? Okay. Last year, 2 years ago, whatever. A point in time in the past. Or, how long have you been in university? What's the length of time? Is it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Okay. So this is another very important difference between these 2 tenses. So one way you can know that is if you need to use the word when, then always use past simple, as the question, when, demands an answer, which is a point in time in the past. So whenever you have that word, then you know I'm just going to use possible. I cannot use present perfect. Now let's take a quick look at the structure of these 2 tenses. In my individual lessons on these tenses, I go into much more detail about how to structure and form these tenses. We look at the positive sentence, the negative sentence, and the questions in detail. And if you've already seen that, then this will be like a little review for you. If you have not watched the individual lessons, then this is just a quick overview for you. So let's start with the past simple. How do we structure that? We take the subject, which is I, you, we, they, he, she, it, etc. And we add the past simple form of the verb. Now the past simple form of the verb could be for a regular verb or an irregular verb. A regular verb, for example, is this what worked? Okay. Work becomes worked. So with a regular verb, you're usually just adding ed or d to make it in the past. With an irregular verb, like the verb to go, when it becomes past simple verb, it just changes completely sometimes, like this one, from go to went. Sometimes it doesn't change at all, like put and put. And that's why those are irregular. So in English, you know there are some regular verbs and irregular verbs, and they behave differently. So with the past simple tense, we're just taking the subject plus the past simple form of the verb. So here's an example. I worked or they went. This is with the regular verb. This is with the irregular one. Okay? If we want to make that negative, it would become he didn't work, or they didn't work, or it didn't work. And you see a change here. It goes back to that base form of the verb. All right? Or if it was with the verb to go, it would become he didn't go. We didn't go. All right? Again, watch the full lesson if you don't understand any part of this. It's not a problem. It's some important for you to understand this very well. Before making a question, we would say, did they work? Again, we're coming back to that base form of the verb. Did he work? Did it work?
Etc.
Okay? So that's the past simple. When we're looking at the present perfect, we
have a little bit more to pay attention to.
Here we have the subject. Again, eu, we, they, etc. Plus a helping verb have or has, which you need to know, all right? And we're using the past participle. The past participle for a regular verb is just the same form as the past simple verb. All right? So we see it here. Here we see worked. Here we see worked. It's a regular verb. The past participle for an irregular verb, like go, is what's usually called like the third form or verb 3, sometimes they call it. So for goal, for example, we would have go. Every day I go. Yesterday I went, but I have gone. So this is that third form, which is called past participle. Again, study that in detail if you need to. And if you don't understand it, just practice it a little bit. Check at the back of any good grammar book to understand what is the past participle form of those irregular verbs. But let's look at the structure now. So basically we'll have I, you, we, or they have worked. I have worked very hard this week, or he has gone to the supermarket. He has gone, she has gone, has gone, okay?
Like that.
And, of course, we can also contract these and shorten them, which again I explained in the full lesson. All right? But let's look at now the negative form. They haven't worked all week, or they haven't gone to the supermarket, or he hasn't gone out. Okay? When we make a question, we change the order. If they gone out, has he worked this week?
Like that.
Okay? So that's the basic structure of these two tenses. And as you can see, they are quite different, not only in how we construct them, but also as we learned earlier when we use them. Now, let's practice what you've learned. So I've written some sentences and questions on the board. Some of these are correct, and some of them are incorrect. And you're going to help me decide which ones are right and which ones are wrong. So let's start with number 1. I have visited my sister yesterday. Is that right or wrong? It is actually wrong. And why is it wrong?
Think about it.
So it says, I have visited. That's what tense, present, perfect. I have visited my sister, but then it says, yesterday. When is yesterday? Yesterday is a finished time. So if we keep the word yesterday, then we cannot use present, perfect. We have to just use past simple. So then we would say, I visited my sister yesterday. Okay? Now, of course, in each of these, when it's wrong, we could probably change it either way. We could make it into past simple, or we could make it into present perfect, depending on what we changed, but I'll tell you which part we're going to keep so that you can correct it accordingly. All right? Next. Number 2. Did you see the doctor last week? Is that right or wrong? That one is actually correct. Okay?
Hope you chose that.
So here we have, did you see? Right? What tense is that? Past simple. So did you see? And it says last week. So with past simple, can we use the finished time? Yes, definitely. For sure. Okay? So that one is just fine. Number 3. Have you heard the news? Is that right or wrong? Well, that one is also correct. Have you heard? What tense is that? Is it perfect?
Right.
And does it say when or anything?
No.
It doesn't. So it just says, have you heard the news? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Okay? It's absolutely fine. Because we can use present perfect with no time expression, no time marker. Just means in all the time until now and including now. Have you heard? That's it. Number 4. When have you sent the email? Right or wrong? Tell me quickly. You know this one. Okay? This is wrong.
Why?
Because we have the critical word here.
When?
As soon as you see when, which tense should you be using? Past simple. So, how do we fix this? When did you send the email? Okay? As soon as you see when, you know that it has to be in the past simple. So then it becomes when did you send the email? Okay? Very good. Number 5.
I have applied for a job last week.
Right or wrong? This one is incorrect.
Why?
Because it says I have applied, and that's what tense? Present perfect. But then it says last week. We can't do that, right? Because last week is a finished time. So, let's change the sentence. Let's keep last week. If you want to say last week, then you need to cancel this and just make it a past simple sentence. I applied for a job last week. That's it. You're getting it. Good. And more important, you didn't memorize it. You understood it. And now you're applying it. So even if you write a sentence by mistake, you can look at it for a second and say, wait a minute. Okay. And you can fix your own sentences, not just these. But let's finish doing these first. Number 6. Our sales increased last year. Right or wrong? That one is correct. Okay. Our sales increased. Increase is what? Past simple. And last year is a finished time. So with past simple, we can definitely use a finished time. All right. Number 7. Have you watched the game last night? Are you ready to get a wrong? By now, you're getting really good at this. And you know that this is wrong because we have here. Have you watched? And then we have last night. So this is present perfect. This is a finished time, and we can't use those together, right? So if we want to keep last night, then we need to get rid of all this and turn it into a past simple question. How do we do that? Instead of have you watched, we say, did you watch the game last night? Very good. Very good. Number 8. They have lived here for 2 years. Right or wrong? Okay. So this one is actually correct.
Why?
Okay. They have lived.
What?
10th? Present perfect. And here we're just talking about how long they have lived here for 2 years. That means they started 2 years ago, and they still live here now, which is what present perfect is all about. Connects the past and the present. And very often we use, remember? For 2 years since 2018. Whatever. Okay. Excellent. Number 9. Did you train the team? Is that correct?
Yep.
It is. Let's look at the last one for a second. Have you trained the team? Is that correct?
Hey.
Yes, it is. So what's going on here? We have the same idea, but in this case we asked about it in what? The past simple. And here we used what? Present perfect. So can we do that?
Yes.
Actually, sometimes we can do that. Grammatically, this sentence is correct. Did you train the team? That's fine. Have you trained the team? That's fine because there was no past time expression or anything used. The meanings are almost the same, but they're a little bit different. Did you train the team? It's just like, okay, did you do that? I have a list of things to do, and did you do that? Yes, I can check it off my list.
Okay, it's done.
It's finished. But have you trained the team? You're really asking here, have you trained them? So are they ready now to do the new things that we need them to do? So the focus of this one is that if you have trained them, then now they can do it. They can do new things. Okay, so the focus is into the present, and here that focus, did you train, is more, the focus is on the past. All right? So this was a very good review. I think you did really well, because I think that you understood. Now, what are the different points you need to keep in mind when you're choosing between these two very popular tenses? All right? And remember this. If you're in doubt and you're really not sure, make your life simpler and use the simpler tense. So use the past simple tense if you're not sure. Don't use the present perfect tense if you're not sure. Okay? That's another little trick to keep in mind. So where do you go from here? Well, as I said, if you haven't watched the full lessons, then of course you can go and watch those individual lessons and understand each of these tenses very, very well. If you have watched the individual lessons already, maybe you found that you're a little bit unsure and you want to go back and review. It's absolutely fine. This is your chance to get it all completely, right? And not have to keep on wondering, okay? All your life, but really knowing what's right. Okay? And whenever you're ready, you can go on to the next tense in this series, which is the present perfect continuous tense. All right? So, I wish you the very best with this. If you'd like to practice this particular comparison a little bit more, you can also do a quiz on this on Ingrid. Thanks very much for watching and all the best with your English.
Hi,
I'm Rebecca, and welcome to this class on the present perfect continuous tense, which is also called the present perfect progressive tense. It's one tense, it just has two names. That's all right. So this class is part of a series created by Ingrid to help you learn and start using the different English verb tenses step by step, okay? Now, the present perfect continuous is an advanced tense, and the fact that you're watching this video tells me that you are already at a high level of English. So that's a great thing. Feel good about it, okay? It's excellent to have reached that stage. What I will do in this class is to explain to you exactly what this tense is, when we use it, how we use it, so that you can start to speak and write more comfortably and confidently using this tense. Okay? And I think you'll find it really useful. So are you ready? Let's get started. So the present perfect continuous tense is a special tense in terms of time.
why?
Because it connects or links both the present and the past. It doesn't talk only about the present or only about the past. It connects them. Let's see how. So it talks about an action that started in the past and it's still continuing now, okay? Something that started in the past and it's still going on now, all right? So let's look at an example to understand exactly how it works. So I've written two sentences on the board. They are from two different tenses, but let's look at them and see how they are different. So the first sentence, I have cooked dinner. The second sentence, I have been cooking dinner. So, what's the difference between these two sentences? Is there a difference? Not just in the words, but I mean in the meaning. There are differences in the meaning. In English grammar, there's a difference, okay? Because if I say I have cooked dinner, it means I cooked it in the past, and now it's ready. Okay? I don't have to cook anymore. I'm finished. And when I say I have cooked dinner, I'm only interested in the result, which is that I don't need to cook anymore. I'm done. But if I say I have been cooking dinner, that means I started cooking in the past, and I'm Still cooking now. I haven't finished. I'm still continuing to cook. I'm not done yet. So in this one, first of all, there's a difference because I'm not finished. It's still continuing. And secondly, because the focus is more on the process, on the activity, not so much on the results. Okay? So this second one that we looked at, I have been cooking dinner, is the tense we're learning here. This is the present, perfect, continuous tense. That first example you looked at was the present, perfect tense by itself. All right? So let's just take a quick look at how this tense is formed. So you have the subject, I, you, we, they, etc. You have two helping verbs, have been or has been. And then you have a verb plus I and G. For example, I have been learning. You can use this. You can use this right now. Because let's say you started learning English in the past and you're still learning now, right? So you could say I have been learning English for some time. Okay? So I have been learning, you have been learning, we have been learning, they have been learning. But here we have to change it a little bit. He has been learning. She has been learning. It has been learning. It might be a computer or artificial intelligence, okay? So here you see the difference between have been and has been. And we'll be looking at all of this much more in detail as we go forward. Now, let's look at when to use the present perfect continuous tense. So, as I said earlier, you can use it for something that started in the past and it still continues now. For example, we have been working on this project for 6 months. What does that mean? We started working in the past 6 months ago, and we have been working and working and working and working. So therefore, you can say we have been working. So have been working. That's the tense. The present perfect continuous tense. All right, there you go. And it means that they started 6 months ago, and they are still working. All right? So it combines that past and present. We could also say sea levels have been rising. So, where's the present? Where's the tense here? Right here. Have been rising. Now, for example, I took this example on purpose because let's say that you're appearing for an English exam such as the IO or TOEFL or some other English proficiency exam, or you're writing at a university level. Then let's suppose you have a topic on global warming and you have to write about it. If you write a sentence like that using one of these perfect tenses, you will definitely score much higher because this is an advanced tense. And it shows the examiner that you understand and can use correctly the advanced English tenses. Okay? So keep that in mind. Next, we can also use the present perfect continuous tense to talk about something that's started in the past and it just finished recently. Okay? I know I told you that it continues, but really, it was continuing and continuing and continuing until does now. For example, let's say that you're trying to reach your friend, right? And you're calling them and calling them. You've been calling and they haven't answered and you're getting a little bit worried. And finally, your friend calls and you say, "Hey, where have you been? I've been calling you for hours." That means you are calling in all the time, in the past, including almost just now until the friend called. Okay? So here's I've been calling. I've is a short form for saying I have. All right? We will learn that. Another example of that kind. We have been waiting for you. So, let's say you're at a restaurant and you're supposed to meet this friend. Maybe it's the same friend. I don't know. Okay? And you've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and your friend's not coming. You don't know where it happens to them. And finally, your friend shows up and you said, "Hey, where have you been? We've been waiting for you. We have been waiting." So that means you were waiting in all the time in the past till now. So therefore we can use have been waiting in this situation. Okay? You can also use this tense with a lot of common expressions. Let me show you what they are. Let's take this sentence. I've been studying for 3 hours. So, I've been studying is the tense itself. And the word for is very often used with this tense. Let's look at the other sentence. I've been studying since 5 o'clock. Again, this is the tense and the word now is since. So, what's the difference between for and since? I hope you know, but let's just refresh. So, for is talking about a period of time, and since is talking about a point in time. All right? Since 5 o'clock. Let's say it's 8 o'clock now. I've been studying for 3 hours, or I've been studying since 5 o'clock. All right? Good. Another expression. It has been raining all day. So, has been raining. This is the tense, and this is the expression. We could say all day, all night, all morning, all afternoon, all evening. Okay? It doesn't matter. Something like that which suggests a period of time and that something can continue during that period. Okay? And another one. She's been exercising a lot lately. Or she has been exercising a lot recently. So lately and recently means in the short time before now. So, these are the expressions. Okay? Lately or recently. Has been exercising is the tense itself. So, these are the main situations in which we can use this tense. So in English, we have 2 kinds of verbs, dynamic verbs and state verbs. Dynamic verbs are like action verbs, and state verbs describe some kind of state or condition. Most verbs are dynamic. Examples of dynamic verbs are eat, run, work. And examples of state verbs might be think, believe, or love. Okay? There is a long list of state verbs which you need to check. Look at a good grammar book. Why is that important? Because with this continuous tense or any continuous tense, you cannot use state verbs. No state of verbs, okay? So, let's look at some examples of what you cannot do and how you cannot use the present perfect continuous tense. So we cannot say, for example, I have been knowing John for 2 years. That is wrong.
Why?
Because know is an example of a state of verb, and we cannot use state verbs with this tense.
So this is wrong, okay?
Completely wrong. And what you would need to do in that case is not use the present perfect continuous, but just use the present perfect. You could say, I have known John for 2 years. Have known is just present perfect, and that's fine, okay? Because why? Not because of the activity, but because of the verb itself. The verb itself being state means that we can't use it in the continuous form, okay? Let's take another example. You cannot say, he has been liking this book all his life.
No. Why?
Because like is another one of those state verbs. So you cannot use it in that continuous form. You can say, he has liked this book all his life. So there you're using what? Present perfect and not present perfect continuous. Another example. The students have not been understanding this lecture. That is wrong.
Why?
Because understand is another state of verb, and we cannot use state verbs with the continuous tense, right? So what do we need to say instead? The students have not understood this lecture. And this is an example of a present perfect sentence, okay? So if you're trying to express some ideas, think about whether the verb is state or dynamic. If it's state, you cannot use the present perfect continuous tense. Now, let's look at how we form the present perfect continuous tense, which is also called the present perfect progressive tense.
All right.
So basically, we are taking the subject plus have been or has been plus the verb plus ing. This verb plus ing is sometimes referred to as the present participle, but if you don't know that term or you don't like that word, forget about it. What it means is just the verb in its base form plus ing. All right? Now, I've divided the board into 3 parts. For positive sentences, negative sentences, and for questions. So let's go through each section and see what happens. So for I, you, we, and they, we say something like this. I have been working. So our sample verb here is a regular verb first to work. Our sample irregular verb is the verb to go. All right? So let's see how both of them can be used very easily in this tense. So you could say, I have been working. You have been working. We have been working. They have been working. But for he, she, and it, we have to change it a little bit. Then we have to say, he has been working. She has been working. It has been working. Let's say they are conditioner. Okay? That's with the regular verb. If you have an irregular verb like go, it's exactly the same thing. I have been going. You have been going. Okay? No problem. That's in a positive sentence. Now, let's look at the negative option. In a negative sentence, we would just add basically the word not. So you would say, I have not been working. You have not been working. We have not been working. They have not been working. Okay? The not just makes it negative. And if we want to shorten that or contract it, then have not becomes haven't. Right?
How are we doing that?
We're basically canceling this. Oh, and we're joining the 2 words. Have plus not into one word which is pronounced haven't.
Say it after me.
Haven't.
Good.
So you could say, I haven't been working. Okay? And most of the time in conversation, that's what we use. We use these contractions a lot. All right? Next. Let's look at what happens for he, she, and it. There also we're basically adding not. So we would say he has not been working. She has not been working. It has not been working. Or he hasn't been working. She hasn't been working. It hasn't been working. Okay?
Say it after me.
Hasn't.
Good.
We had a little bit more, Sue. Next. Let's look at what happens when we form a question. This is always a little bit trickier, so be careful. So here, first we have. Have you been working? Have they been working? Right? It's the same for everyone. Has he been working? Has she been working? Has it been working? Okay. So again, the have with I, you, we, and they, and has with he, she, and it. And we still have to have the have and the been. You see that everywhere have been, has been, okay? So here in this tense, we have 2 helping verbs. All right? We have the subject. We have the helping verb have. We have the helping verb to be in the form of been, okay? So have been or has been, plus whatever verb you want plus ing, and. That's basically how we construct the present perfect continuous tense. Now remember that just like in many other tenses, if you want to add like a question word, then you can do that. You just have to put it in the right place like here. You could say, where have you been working? Why have you been working? How long have you been working? All right? So whenever you want to add those question words or phrases, you can do that. Just put it here before this structure, and keep the rest of the structure exactly like that, and you'll be absolutely fine. Now, I gave you an example with the verb work and the irregular verb go, but it will work the same way for any other verb. For example, the verb save. Let's try that one. You have been saving money. You haven't been saving money. Have you been saving money? Or let's take an irregular verb like think. I've been thinking about changing my job. I haven't been thinking of changing my job. Have you been thinking of changing your job? Okay. So, whether it's a regular verb or a near regular verb, it's going to follow exactly this pattern. Now, let's look at contractions and pronunciation. To make sure that you can spell and say the words associated with this tense correctly. Let's get started. So the first one, I have been working. That's the full form, but as I said, when we're speaking, we usually shorten it.
We contract it.
So let's see exactly what's happening so that when you write it, you're also spelling it correctly. So I have been becomes I've been. So how do you know where to put the apostrophe? You put it where you take out some letters. So what did we take out here? I've is short for I have. So we took out the H and the A and we added an apostrophe and we joined these two words. So I have becomes I've. Let's say it now. I've been working. Good. The next one, if it's negative, I have not been working, right? So here, that becomes I haven't been working. Say it after me. I haven't been working.
Good.
What did we do there? What did we take out? We took out, took have not. It became haven't. So we took out what? We took out the O, added the apostrophe, and we joined those two words. Okay? So say it after me. I've been working. I haven't been working. Now, when you're saying that, make sure that you're pronouncing that T at the end, because if you don't, then it will sound like the positive version a little bit, okay? And it can sound confusing to the listeners. So I haven't been working. There's a T sound at the end. All right. So now let's see how it works with each of the subjects. You have been becomes you've been. All right. We have been, we've been. You can repeat it after me. They have been becomes they've been. You have not been working becomes you haven't been working. We have not been working becomes we haven't been working. They have not been working becomes they haven't been working. Okay? Let's say it again quickly. You haven't been. We haven't been. They haven't been. And, of course, if you're trying to say this tense, you must say that verb plus ing after that, okay? We're just not saying it right now because we're focusing on the pronunciation here.
Okay.
Now what happens with he, she, and it? A similar idea. He has been working becomes what? When we shorten it, he's been working. Okay? So what happened here? He has, we took out this, right? And we just put the apostrophe, all right? And that becomes he's. He's been working, all right? Say it after me. He's been working. Now, even though there's an S, it sounds a little bit like a Z or a Z sound. He's Z. He's been working.
Good.
If we make it negative, he has not been working, becomes what? He hasn't been working. So what happened here? This is short for has not. We took out the O, we added the apostrophe, and we contracted those words. So we say he hasn't been working. Good. Let's do the same thing here. He has been working becomes she's been. It has been, it's been. Now you see this been. I'm really saying it pretty short and fast, right? I'm not saying been. It's been a long time. No, it's been. It's short, all right? So make sure you're doing that. And similarly here with the negative, she has not been working. She hasn't been working. You say it. Good. It has not been working becomes it hasn't been working. You say it.
Good.
Okay? So now you know the contractions and the pronunciation of this tense. Now, let's look at some of the spelling changes we need to make in the main verb. So for most verbs, all you have to do to add that verb plus ing is to add the ing. For example, think becomes thinking, fix, fixing, right? All we have to do most of the time is to just add that ing. However, there are a few exceptions. For verbs ending in an E to begin with, we have to drop the E and then add the ing. For example, the word change, right? It ends with an E here. You see that? and it becomes changing, right? We dropped the E. Higher ends within E. And we made it higher ring without the E. Okay? Next, verbs that end in IE. There, we have to change the IE to a Y. For example, tie becomes tying. Lie with IE becomes lying with LY and G. Alright? Now for verbs ending in CVC. Okay? What does that mean? CVC stands for consonant, vowel, consonant. So, you know what a vowel is in English? A, I, O, U. These are the vowels, and every other letter in English is a consonant. So if the verb, when you look at it, we look at it from the end, all right? If this letter is a consonant, and then a vowel, and then a consonant, then what you have to do is to double the last letter. For example, plan becomes planing. Run, right? If we look at it from here, consonant, vowel, consonant, right? So run becomes running. All right? That's it. These are the main changes in spelling that you need to make for the verb itself, the base verb. Now, let's look at how to give a short answer in a polite way using this tense. So, let's suppose that somebody asks you, have you been going to the gym? Your answer is probably going to be yes or no, right? But in English, we don't usually just say yes or no. We say a little bit more. But we don't have to repeat everything they said in the question. So, let's look at how it works. So, if they ask you, have you been going to the gym? You could say yes, I have, or no, I haven't. And you get this part from the question itself, right? The question begins with have. And you can use this in your answer. The important point to remember is if it's a positive answer, we cannot use any contraction there. So you have to say the full yes, I have, or no, I haven't. The same thing here. Let's look at this example. Has he been helping you?
So what could you say?
Yes, he has, or no, he hasn't. And once again, we have to use no contraction. We cannot use the contraction. You have to use the full form. All right? So let me ask you a few questions, and you can give me the answer. Have you been getting up early these days or recently? So you probably could say yes, I have, or no, I haven't. One more question. Have you been working hard recently? Yes, I have, or no, I haven't. And the last question, have you been learning English tenses? I know your answer for this one. Your answer would be yes, I have. Now, let's do some practice. So, what I've done is I've written some phrases and some sentences on the board. And what we will do orally this time, we're not going to write it, we're just going to say it. We're going to take these phrases and change them into present, perfect, progressive, or continuous. And first we'll make positive sentences, then we'll make negative ones, and then we'll make questions. Maybe not the full sentence, but just this phrase. Okay? So, let me show you an example with number 1. So here it says they watch. So, if we want to change this, which is right now all present simple, okay? They watch. If we want to change it to present, perfect, continuous, what does it become? They have been watching. Okay? Let's do number 2. She sleeps. She has been sleeping. Okay? You can either say it with me if the answer comes to you quickly, or you can say it after me. Number 3, it works. It has been working. You attend. You have been attending. Good. Number 5, we pay. We have been paying. He teaches. He has been teaching. They go. They have been going. She organizes. She has been organizing. Okay? Good. So you did 8, which are positive. Now, let's make them negative. They watch. Okay, let's do this. Instead of saying they have not, this time, let's use the contraction. Okay? So they watch. They haven't been watching. She sleeps. She hasn't been sleeping. It works. It hasn't been working. You attend. You haven't been attending. We pay. We haven't been paying. He teaches. He hasn't been teaching. They go. They haven't been going. She organizes.
She hasn't been organizing.
Okay? Very nice.
Good for you.
Now there are two more. So, let's see what we can do with that. So, now this is a full sentence in the present. Perfect continuous tense. 2 sentences. And we're going to make them negative. And then we're going to make a question. Okay? So, first let's read it. They have been living in New York. Make it negative. They haven't been living in New York. Make it a question. Have they been living in New York?
Good.
Number 10. He has been reading. Make it negative. He hasn't been reading. And make it a question. Change the order. Has he been reading?
Okay.
That's super. So now let's look at some common mistakes that are made with this tense and how you can avoid them. So the mistakes tend to be of 3 different kinds. Sometimes the wrong verb is used. Sometimes the wrong tense is used. And sometimes the wrong word is used. Let's look at the examples. In the first one, the student wrote, I have been understanding the lesson. That's wrong.
Tell me why.
Why is it wrong? Because it's the wrong verb being used in the wrong way. Because understand is one of those state verbs, right? So we cannot use the state verb understand in that continuous form. The correct form of that sentence would have been, I have understood the lesson. So here we would have needed to use the present perfect tense and not the present perfect continuous with this verb. Okay? Next. Sometimes the wrong tense is used by a student. For example, this student wrote, I am working here since 2018. That's wrong.
Why?
Because this is actually present continuous. And present continuous only talks about now. So if the student only said, I am working here, that would have been okay. But the student added since 2018. So in that case, we cannot use that present continuous tense. We needed to, in fact, use the present perfect continuous, which connects the past and the present. So here, which should have been, I have been working here since 2018. So in this case, sometimes you have to identify, is this the right place to use the present perfect tense? Which other tenses are there? What should I be using? And use the right tense at the right time. Next, sometimes the wrong word is being used somewhere in the sentence. For example, a common mistake is here. I have been living here since 3 years. That's wrong.
Why?
Because of this word. Since, right?
We can't use since like that.
Since is supposed to be used with what?
A point in time.
Not a period of time. The correct sentence would have been, I have been living here for 3 years. Okay? For 3 years since 2018. For example. All right? So be careful to avoid these mistakes when you're using this tense. So to review, you know the present perfect continuous tense when you know when to use it and how to use it. So let's review again the how to use it part. The positive sentence, it has been snowing all day. The negative, it hasn't been snowing all day. The question, has it been snowing all day? All right? When you can do that and move quickly between the positive, the negative, the question, then you have mastered how to construct this tense and how to formulate the sentence or the question. All right? So this is really amazing. I hope you recognize that it's quite an achievement to get to this point in your study of English where you can use this tense. It's really a good achievement. So feel good about yourself. Feel proud of yourself. Clearly you're a serious student and you have serious goals and you are achieving them. Okay? So I really congratulate you on that. Now, if you want to take it a little bit further, practice now. Use this tense. Use some examples. What have you been doing recently? Write about yourself. Write a few things, okay? What have you been doing recently? What have you been studying recently? What have you been learning recently? What have you been watching? What have you been doing in general? Okay? Write some sentences about yourself, about members of your family, and this way you will really master this tense. Okay? Now, after that, if you like, it's time to move on. When you feel you've understood this tense well, then move on to the next tense in our series, which is the past perfect tense. All right? And in case you feel that you'd like to review a little bit more, then please do out the quiz that we have on this tense on Invit. Thanks very much for watching.